Chess has many famous attacks. The fried liver is brutal. The king's gambit is wild. The immortal game is legendary. But the Lolli Attack? The Lolli Attack is something different entirely. It is calculated destruction. It is a king hunt conducted with surgical precision and absolute ruthlessness. Today we experience every single move of it, and by the end, you will understand why this opening is feared. White opens with the pawn to e4, staking a claim right in the heart of the board. That pawn controls d5 and f5, projecting power forward. Black mirrors it immediately with the pawn to e5. Both sides claim the center. Both sides have equal stakes. The stage is set. White brings the knight to f3, a natural developing move, but already with a hidden agenda. That knight eyes the e5 pawn and, look at the arrow toward g5. It has a far more aggressive destination in mind. Black responds with the knight to c6, defending e5 naturally, a perfectly logical move. Black suspects nothing yet, and here it is. The bishop slides to c4, the Italian game. From the moment that bishop lands on c4, it has only one obsession, the f7 square, Black's weakest point, defended by only the king itself. Black plays the two knights defense, knight to f6. A brave, fighting choice. Instead of quietly mirroring with bishop to c5, Black immediately counterattacks the e4 pawn. This is not a passive player, but brave choices in chess sometimes carry severe consequences. White plays knight to g5, and suddenly everything changes. Two pieces are now aiming at f7, the knight from g5, the bishop from c4. This is a double attack on Black's most vulnerable square. Black has to react immediately. Black strikes back with the pawn to d5, counterattacking the bishop on c4 and the e4 pawn at the same time. A good practical decision. Black is saying, I don't care about your threats. I have my own. White captures, pawn takes on d5. That d5 pawn now threatens the knight on c6. And Black recaptures with the knight to d5, sitting powerfully in the center, eyeing f4, b4, and other squares. Most players watching this would now expect the famous fried liver attack, the knight jumping straight to f7. But White has something more sophisticated, something more complete, something more deadly. White plays pawn to d4. This is the Lolli Attack. Instead of sacrificing immediately, White blows open the entire center first. The d4 pawn challenges Black's knight on d5. It activates the dark-squared bishop on c1. It opens lines for the queen. It prepares the rook on a1 to swing into the game. White is not just attacking one square. White is building an entire artillery platform before firing a single shot. Black captures, pawn takes on d4. The center is blown wide open. Black is a pawn up and has a passed pawn. On paper, it looks fine, but every open line is about to become a weapon pointed directly at the Black king. White castles kingside, king to g1, rook to f1. This is not passive. This is essential. White's king steps to safety, and watch this, the rook immediately has a destination. e1. From e1, that rook will x-ray the entire e-file, blasting straight through e5, e7, all the way to e8, straight at the Black king. Black develops the bishop to e7, hoping to castle kingside on the very next move. The bishop also eyes the annoying knight on g5, trying to neutralize it. One tempo away from safety. One tempo too late. Knight takes f7. The first sacrifice. The spark that lights the fire. The knight cannot be ignored. It forks the queen on d8 and the rook on h8 simultaneously. The king is forced to capture. King takes f7, and now look at this position. It is only move 8. The Black king is on f7, out in the open. No castle, no cover, no escape route. Every square around it is dangerous. The king has left its home and become a wanderer on the battlefield. The queen swings to f3 with check, and this move does two devastating things at once. It attacks the king on f7 and it threatens the knight on d5. A double attack. A fork. Black cannot save both. If the king retreats to g8, White simply takes the knight on d5 with the bishop and the position falls apart. If the king goes to e8, the queen threatens f7 with check and the rook comes to e1. There is really only one try. The king walks to e6. The Black king is now on e6, the 6th rank, the middle of the board. Let that sink in. It is move 9, and the Black king is sitting on an open square surrounded by danger on every side. The king has become a target. The king has become a liability. The rook crashes to e1 with check. That is the purpose of castling on move 7, this exact moment. The entire e-file is now a highway of destruction. The rook's power blasts through e5, e6, e7, e8. The king cannot stay on e6, it must deal with this check immediately. Black's only option is to block the check with the knight to e5, but here is the critical detail, that knight is now pinned. The rook on e1 pins it directly to the king on e6. The knight cannot move without walking the king into a fatal check. It is trapped there, a piece frozen by the rook's power, and white knows exactly how to exploit that. White develops the last minor piece, bishop to f4, and it lands with devastating effect, attacking the pinned knight on e5 directly. Now look at what white has assembled: queen on f3, rook on e1, bishop on c4, bishop on f4. Every single white piece is coordinated, active, and pointing at the same area of the board. Black is in serious trouble. The queenside pieces, the rooks, the dark-squared bishop, the queen are all still sleeping on their starting squares. Black has done almost nothing while white has built a war machine. Black desperately tries to reinforce bishop to f6, adding another defender to the pinned knight on e5, holding on with everything available. White trades, bishop takes e5. Why trade when attacking? Because removing the f6 bishop forces the recapture and leaves new tactical possibilities open. The rook on e1 still x-rays the king. The queen still dominates from f3. And now, black must recapture, bishop takes e5. The bishop lands on e5, blocking the e-file check for now. The position looks slightly more stable. Black might even feel a moment of relief. That relief is about to be shattered completely. White plays knight to c3. On the surface, a normal developing move. The knight attacks the knight on d5, but here is the truth that most players miss entirely. White is offering this knight as a sacrifice. Deliberately, knowingly, with full calculation. If black takes the knight, the lines explode open. If black refuses and moves the d5 knight, then rook takes e5 with check wins immediately. There is no good option. Black is in a vice grip. Black captures, pawn takes c3. Black is now up a full rook, up a knight, has a dangerous-looking passed pawn on c3. On paper, black is winning by a large margin. But the king is on e6, and that changes everything. White plays, rook takes e5, with check, a full rook, given away, sacrificed without hesitation. Not a pawn, not a minor piece. A rook, gone. This is the move that defines the Lolli attack. White has now sacrificed a knight on f7, a knight on c3, and a full rook on e5. 3 pieces offered to the fire. But the attack is winning by force, and material is completely irrelevant when the king has nowhere to hide. The king is forced to capture, king takes e5, and now the black king is on e5, the absolute center of the board, surrounded by enemies, completely alone. Its own army is still back on the 8th rank, unable to move a single step to help. This is the ultimate expression of peace activity defeating raw material. The second rook fires to e1 with check. The king is bounced again. Where can it go? Not f5, the queen on f3 controls that. Not f4, that is checkmate from the queen on f3. Not e6, back into the fire. The only square the king can reach is d4. The king stumbles to d4, d4, white's territory. The king has crossed into the enemy camp, completely alone, with every white piece still alive and hunting. White plays bishop captures d5, eliminating the last significant black piece in the area and opening the c3 square. The bishop on d5 radiates power in every direction: a8, g8, e6, c6, b7. It dominates the entire board. Black has no real choice. Queen takes d5, recapturing and trying to hold some form of defense. The black queen plants itself on d5, controlling some squares. But there is one square the black queen forgot to watch. Queen takes c3. Checkmate. Let us verify. The king is on d4. The queen on c3 covers c4, d3, d2, e3, b4, b2. The rook on e1 covers e4 and the entire e-file, every single escape square sealed. The black queen on d5 cannot block, cannot interpose, cannot save its king. The black king that started safely at home on e8 traveled to f7 when the knight sacrificed itself, stumbled forward to e6 when the queen checked, pushed further to e5 when the rook crashed in, walked to d4 after the second rook check, and took its final breath right there, on d4, in the middle of the board, completely alone. White sacrificed a knight on f7, then a knight on c3, then a full rook on e5. 3 sacrifices across 17 moves, and every single one of them was necessary. Every single one of them was calculated. Every single one of them was beautiful. This is not just an opening. This is not just a tactic. This is a complete attacking philosophy, where king safety matters more than material, where piece coordination defeats raw counting, and where one player sees 17 moves ahead and executes every single one of them perfectly. This is the Lolli attack. Learn it, play it, and never let your king wander to d4.